you have to come back. I can't lift this.
Just leave it.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome here with the Montana Sportscast podcast as we get ready to chat with outgoing Commissioner Kent Paulson. Bob Ritterod, Paul Panisco. First and foremost, Bobby, how are you?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
All right.
Yep.
That's easy enough. And the Commish
summertime's about here. Yep.
That's a good thing. Commish, how you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. Doing great. Thanks for having me on, and got ourselves a little bit of a spring look up in the Flathead Valley. We're kind of always the last one to catch that train, and we're just happy when we can get a sunshine day. I've actually been out in the yard doing a little catch up, trying to attack that honeydew list, you know.
Well, now that you'll have a lot more time to do that kind of thing, you can come help me.
That's my concern. I used to tell people when they asked me how long I was going to work, I said, well, I can't play bad golf that many days in a row. But now I've got to come up with an excuse where.
Well, and obviously the reason we're chatting with Commish is I assume everybody that would be with us by now knows, but the Commish hanging it up, retiring, I believe from my understanding is beginning of June. So we have him for another month. Is that right, Bobby?
That's the way I understand it. Yeah. And we can ask him if he comes back on here, but I think that he has agreed to stay on if they do not find a replacement, right away, the 1st of June. So I don't really know what all that is. We can maybe ask him if we can get him back here, but we'll see what happens here. He just dropped out on us, but see if he logs back in and bring him up again. But yeah, it's going to be kind of interesting. We talk about expansion in the Frontier Conference. We need more schools. It's a huge challenge, as we all know, Paul. We're kind of stuck out here in the middle of nowhere by ourselves. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens. What happens with a new guy? New ideas. Maybe never know what might happen.
Yeah. I you know what? I'm always so interested in those lists. The people that decide to go after a position like that, whether it's internal people, whether it's, former coaches or people that we know on a personal level in the Frontier Conference, or, new people that decide to come in and throw their hat in the ring. I would always love to see the list of people that are interested in that and kind of what each different person brings.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm sure there's some commissioners maybe from some of these other conferences that maybe interested in the Frontier job, want to move to Montana from maybe Kansas or someplace. You never know, but you might even see some interest from that. I'm sure that it's pretty much nationally known that this position is open, so we'll see what happens.
When do you have any knowledge as far as obviously for
any question there? Just let's back up a little bit.
That's not a great start. Any idea? Because obviously everybody, when you're taking a position, you have to look at it from a monetary standpoint. As far as what the commissioner makes as opposed to other commissioners. When you talk about other commissioners from other conferences possibly looking, do we have any idea where we stand on that footing as far as what our commissioner is paid as opposed to other commissioners around the country at the NAIA level anyway?
No, I don't, Paul, and I don't know, Kent runs that office out of his house. I don't know if he gets some stipend money for having that. I just don't have any idea. It was kind of strange because somebody else asked me that same thing yesterday, and when I was in Billings, and I have no idea what that pays or what all is involved in it, but maybe those are some things. If we can get Kent back on, he's tried a couple times to log back on. We'll see what happens. He hasn't texted me yet, so maybe we're still good. So, but no, I really don't. But it'll be interesting to see. There's a few names. I'm not going to say any names on the air really, but I think there's a few people out there that are showing some interest in it.
Okay.
Local people, frontier people. So, I would hope that they would stay with somebody in the Frontier Conference,
Mhm.
and as far as I know, Paul, it's strictly up to the presidents that are going to, vote on this and approve it, whoever the next commissioner will be. I don't think it has anything to do, athletic directors, I don't think they really have any vote in it. They
Okay.
may have some input to their presidents, but I think it pretty much comes down to the presidents of the colleges in the conference.
And that was honestly kind of my next question. Who's all involved in that decision making process? So if it is the presidents, you'd have to assume most of the schools have good working relationships between the president and AD and athletic departments. Hopefully, those lines of communication are pretty solid. Where a president will bring in their AD and beyond and go, what do we think? What's best for us? What's best for the colleges and what's best for the Frontier Conference moving forward? Those are going to be some pretty tough conversations to have, moving forward, looking for a new commissioner.
I think one thing that's important is to find somebody that's well-rounded in all sports.
Yeah.
I think that, you see it a lot in the bigger schools, the NCAA, big conferences. Some of those ads, they seem to lean towards certain sports, and it's understandable. I mean, if you got a football program that's making you millions of dollars a year, and a basketball program that's making you zero, you're probably going to put most of your eggs in that football basket. But I think that's really important to try to get. Trying to help him out there, but I didn't have any luck. Trying to get somebody that's well-rounded in all sports, because there's quite a few sports in the Frontier Conference when you stop and think about all the different schools.
Yeah, especially with the addition of everybody now with track full time, you start to wonder, what's next. Obviously, we have several schools that have had soccer programs for several years. Carroll College, Rocky, and others playing that in the Cascade Conference. You wonder, is soccer possibly next for everybody? Is there a possibility of softball across the board for others? Again, several schools in the Frontier play softball in the Cascade Conference as Cascade Conference members. You wonder if others will join that bandwagon, or if it will be something new. If we get wrestling across the board. Obviously, wrestling has had a very significant history in the Frontier Conference historically. We certainly have schools that wrestle now. Would wrestling be next? Men's and women's possibly. The possibility of what's next. That stuff is awful fun to think about, and certainly fun to sit around and jaw about and try and figure out what possibly could be next for the Frontier.
Yeah, and I think it's going to make some difference, Presentation College dropping out, and another, some of these schools dropping out or closing up. And, I really think that it's going to open up some merging of conferences when we start seeing that happen. And I think there's a lot of these small private colleges, especially, Paul, that are struggling financially.
Yes.
And what's going to happen in the next 3 or 4 or 5 years? Let's face it, we could lose 1 or 2 out of the Frontier pretty easily.
Yeah.
You can't say it won't happen, because it's possible. But so I think that's going to force some merging of some of these conferences, and I think that's going to make a difference how we go as to adding sports. If we join a conference that has strong in baseball and softball, they may make that a stipulation. Well, if we're going to join or we're going to merge, are you going to play baseball and softball or wrestling or whatever?
Yeah.
I think that's probably something that's pretty likable, that could happen.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a push and shove with both conferences that would merge. I think they're going to have to kind of meet down the middle on some things. So
Well,
it'll be interesting.
yeah, and I mean, you brought it up, with the idea of presentation and the North Star for a while. Obviously, we had Dickinson for a few minutes in the Frontier Conference, and then they went back to the North Star. But their scope, their worldview got a lot smaller as far as automatic bids, and you'd have to assume that those conversations are going to be a little bit more in depth right now than they were 2, 3, 4 years ago with the schools that are remaining in that North Star Conference.
We got him back.
He'll do anything to get out of an interview with me. Absolutely anything.
You better request that the next commissioner is audio and technical sound. I guess. I don't know what my camera. I use a clip-on camera, and it went off, and then I had a heck of a time getting to reload and come back on. But I was hearing you guys. I just couldn't. Yeah.
So you heard what we were talking about anyway.
Yeah,
we didn't say nothing real bad.
My ears were burning. Yeah. Anyway, I'll try to be more careful and not knock my little handy dandy portable camera off. But anyway, if your viewers don't mind, we can try to resurrect the show here.
That's fine. That's fine.
Well,
we will.
Commish, we appreciate your time, man.
You bet. Always enjoy.
Go ahead, Bobby. You had something to start?
We were talking when you went to do your honeydew stuff there, Commish, kind of how, for this next commissioner coming in, how are we set dollar-wise, for your pay compared to other conferences? And I don't expect you to tell us that you're making, $300,000 a year or whatever, but, kind of compares to how we are to the other conferences around the area.
Well, we're in great shape. As I said in my my press conference, you have a very, very good job when you have a hard time deciding if indeed this is the time. And I guess I'll start there. I never make a decision without really carefully analyzing, and it was a decision that I have made. I'm very, very pleased with my decision, but a lot went into this over really the last a couple of years. I'm 72 years old. I've worked exactly 50 years of my life serving students and athletes and institutions, and I just decided, they say in the old adage, when you know, and it just struck me that this job is a terrific job. I hope I've added to the menu of my 4 predecessors in creating a great job, with me being the first full-time commissioner, and knowing that position is going to be full-time from this point forward. It really is a good job. I know everybody puts their own thumbprint on a job, but the side rails are there, and the framework is set. And as far as I really feel like it will attract some really, really good job candidates. And compared to other conferences, the Frontier Conference was getting a steal. And I don't mean that boastfully. I just mean that I came to the job at age 58 with a pension. I came with insurance. I hoped that I was going to stay at least for 7 years to climb on Medicare, which I went by that highway sign quite a while back. And so I came with a loaded package, and consequently, when you compare the 21 conferences, I was in the lower tier because I could still make a very nice salary. I was well compensated, but they didn't have to pay benefits. They didn't have to pay a salary commensurate to, and you know, it's that old adage: whether you have six teams or 16 teams, there was still work to be done. And I heard you talking when I was off the air about the number of sports that we have, and I'm very proud of the additional sports that we've added. But most likely, unless they get somebody that is similar to me that comes to the job, you know, with a prior career and still has 10, 12, 14, 15 years left where they want to work, they're most likely to attract a younger person and or a person that is willing to leave a job where they wouldn't necessarily carry benefits with it. Then yes, they're going to have to most likely pay a higher amount of money. And to that, we're very, very sound budgetarily. I've been very, very good about keeping costs down, and also being very cognizant that our universities, our schools are, and they're stretching every string to make ends meet. And so I know the presidents have very much appreciated the fact that our due structure is one of the lowest in the country, and we're able to operate just fine within the framework of the budget. So I'm handing a job over that is sound fiscally, and yes, there's money in there. There's the latitude for the presidents to not turn a candidate down because they can't afford them, within reason, certainly. So that said, they're going to get some really, really good candidates. I'm not going to be involved other than I know that they know that I know everybody in the state of Montana and beyond. I see where the only stipulation that they've really put in there is that the commissioner must reside in the state of Montana, which makes sense. And the reason they did that, I'm sure, was a bit of a suggestion from the NAI. We've got some commissioners that through time have lived in one state and governed in 2 or 3 other states. And I like the idea that I get to go to Oregon, I get to go to Idaho, I get to go to Arizona. But even when Westminster and Lewis Clark State, Dickinson State were in the league, this is a Montana conference. And Paul, Bob, you've heard me say on the air, very proud that the Frontier is Montana's conference. And it always has been, and it always will be. And so that said, they want the next commissioner to reside within the state boundaries. I don't think there's any stipulation where. One of my interview questions, and I think I've told you this story once before, my interview questions was, so where will you be moving to if you get this job? And I said, well, I'm not moving anywhere. And if that's a deal breaker, I'm sorry, because I really, really want this job. And I think they can see 14 years later, I was serious about that statement. But we left it that, okay, well, you're living in Whitefish. You built a home there. Your wife is still working. She was Joan was a nurse, and she was driving into Kalispell every day, and she needed to keep working and loved her job as well. And I did leave him with this thought. The commissioner, as much fun and as big a smile as I had on my face every time you saw me, there were moments where I had to put the commissioner's hat on, and I had to make tough decisions. And it wasn't unlike the decisions that I had made in my previous careers as an administrator. but I said, if I'm living in Dillon, not only did I graduate from Montana Western, known as Western Montana College at that time, but I must be a Montana guy. Watch out here. Here we go again.
There we go.
See, we continually talk about how the commish did such a good job, closing purse strings. Like he didn't even buy himself a real webcam.
No,
I mean,
no,
if
he did
any
good.
other commissioner would have at least bought a real one.
No, he's trying. We'll see, but I was going to try something here. I don't know if I'll have any luck. There he is. He's back. There we go.
My computer and emphasizing my thoughts. I just left them with the thought, guys, that it probably is wise to have your commissioner not reside in the town where there's an institution, because no matter how you try, you're not going to be able to rule in a neutral fashion. And let's just leave it that after 14 years, people they've never asked the question again. And more so, we've hosted, I know we're going to host our meetings in Whitefish in June. And I think this is our 4th or 5th time of hosting them here. And the presidents, their families, the athletic directors, their families love coming to Whitefish. And so if there was any doubt, if there was anything that was a concern, that was certainly dispelled immediately. And so, in summation to your question, they're gonna get some really, really good people, and everybody loves to be able to think that you're going to hand the job off to somebody that's just going to keep moving that up the ladder and taking it to that next level. And I have every confidence that that's going to be the case.
When you look back at your years, Kent. Oh, go ahead, Bob. Sorry.
Nope. Go ahead. You're
just that idea of we've seen. It's funny, when you think about it in the short term, it doesn't feel like we've had a whole lot of change in the frontier, but when you actually put some thought into it, we've had a ton. I mean, and through your years, you have had some heavy stress moments. You've been forced to make some big decisions. What are some of the ones you're proud of? What are the things that, at the end of the day, you're going to be awfully, awfully happy that your name was attached to as far as the Frontier Conference goes?
Well, first and foremost, just the joy of dealing with the student athletes. As you can tell, I'm a very student-centered administrator. Putting the medals around the neck of the winners this last weekend was the perfect ending, if you will. John Seck and Les Cook asked me to kind of compile some things for their statements with regards to just what you asked, Paul. And as I looked back and started putting that list together, I kind of sat back and in awe, not to pat myself on the back, but I got to be part of just some really, really positive growth situations over my 14 years. And it started with, I guess, the joy of also getting to work with so many people. And I stressed in the press conference that this is really a good league and this is a good job. And gosh, you get to live in Montana. I have served over 50 athletic directors. I have served over 40 presidents. I've served hundreds of coaches and thousands of student athletes. And that's in a 14-year window. And so on the outside, somebody said, well, wow, people must be just leaving right and left. Well, no. Number one, we hire good people. And that's kudos to the institutions. They hired a commissioner that was going to give them everything he had and then some. And our student athletes, we all marvel at the level of student athlete that comes to our league that our coaches bring in. And so just because you have that kind of turnover, it doesn't mean they were bad. It means that they were so good that they got hired away.
Yeah.
And again, I kidded the presidents. I said, you guys come and go. And as time went on, these presidents were my oldest son's age. I'd look at Joan and go, wow. And so I'm the guy in the room that had the gray beard, had lost what hair I had when I started at age 58. And I turned that around and said, hey guys, I'm the guy with the history here, and let me be of help because I am not going anywhere. You hired me, and this was the frosting on the cake in my career. And I told them then, and I'm going to tell you now, very few people get to finish a career that you've loved its entirety of, in my case, 50 years. But how many people get to pluck the things that you liked the best out of those years and mold it into that final job? And I'm one of those lucky people that not only did I get to enjoy virtually every day on my job, but I got to walk out the front door. I got to pick the time when I was going to spend some more time with 10 grandchildren. I was going to be able to take my wife on a trip where we didn't have to hurry back. I'd served my time, and we have balls in the air. We always do, because that's the sign of a good conference. That's the sign of growth. That's the sign of a conference that's always looking to better themselves.
Yeah.
And so I'm stepping away, shall we say, in a lull, but there is a lot more to come, guys. And I'm happy to have been part of the framework, the foundation for what I know is going to be real positive growth in the future. I'm real proud of our team as we navigated through COVID. That was brutal on every front. That was tough, no matter what business you were in. We peeked around the corner and we all saw things that we had never seen before as we were going through this. The challenge that I probably faced more than maybe I would have if I would have been a high school principal or whatever. We were all knee deep in the COVID mud, but we had Oregon's health regulations, we had Idaho's, we had Montana's, and trying to integrate that, working with the presidents. I think my high water mark, and I must have been really bored during COVID, but I wasn't. I think I had 28 Zoom calls in 1 week, and they were all based on what do we do next? Where are we going? And I really, really was so proud of our presidents and our athletic directors and myself and our coaches and our trainers and our health teams, our various COVID-related committees, and most of all, the students themselves. We kept that thing going. We played, and we did it in a healthy way. And I think that as we've come out of COVID, I think it shows that we were concerned, but we weren't afraid, and we were bold enough to dip our toe in and keep those kids on the field and keep them in the gyms. And I just I'll look back on that, because all of us are going to say that's where I was when I heard about COVID. That's where I was as we dealt with those 2 years, and I'm proud to say that we did that. Another thing I'm real proud of is the national tournaments. Bringing the NAI to Montana certainly was a team member that got that ball rolling. I have every reason to believe that we're going to see that again. I think when the bids come up for the women's tournament. Boy, Billings is Montana, and Billings is a sports town, and Montana loves their sports. And I'm going to be excited. I'll be the first one coming through the ticket aisle. I think we'll see that women's tournament again because Montana did a great job. The state of Montana, Rocky Mountain College, Billings, Alex Tyson and Visit Billings. They did nothing to damage their chances of getting that again. So, and I would end, Paul. I'm looking at a Carroll College logo in the backdrop along with my alma mater, Montana Western. The joy of being a father as well as the commissioner. And I was very careful, and I think I did a good job of letting the league know that I'm so proud of every one of our coaches, but I'm very proud to be a dad of a coach in our league. And, you heard me tell this story, but somebody from the press, when Kurt was named the head coach at Carroll 5 years ago, asked, well, isn't this going to be a conflict of interest? And they were serious with their question, and I gave them a very serious answer. I said, there's going to be absolutely no problem with my son being a coach in our league, but where there will be a conflict of interest, if he steps out of line, he's going to be dealing with his mother. And he does not want to go there. And that's the last I heard of that conflict of interest. And I've had coaches come up to me, athletic directors, student athletes from other teams, and say, yeah, you're the best. Thank you for being there for us. And it was always about the conference. It was never about an individual school.
Yeah.
And, Adam Hyatt wrote me a very, very nice note. I just bring this up, and I don't think Adam would be minding at all of me saying this on the air. And he thanked me for the support. And he said, I see you as a second father. And that was really touching to know that a coach that was competing against my son in part, but the rest of the coaches in the league, that told me that I had done my job.
Good for you.
I don't know. I hope I answered your question.
Go ahead, Bobby.
Lots of good moments, Paul.
For you.
Yeah, well, Kent, all the good times that have been had, but what are some of the challenges you see for this next commissioner? I know that we all talk about recruitment of more schools in our conference, merging conferences. What do you think are the big challenges, say, in the next 5 years?
Well, certainly membership. If they use my agenda framework, membership's gonna appear at the very top of the list. It can't help but not be. I think we're solid where we're at, but we're not where we need to be at or want to be at. 6 is a very tenuous number. We've had dialogue. We've forged great relationships. We've continued, as you've seen, to bolster our associate membership. I firmly believe, and I played basketball and I ran track, but I firmly believe that football is the backbone of every conference in America. And if we had to have one sport remain strong, and when I say strong, 8 members or greater, I'm so thankful football kept us in the game. We're leveraging football to help our other sports gain scheduling opportunities, opponents in non-conference fashion. It's no secret, guys, that what's happened to the NAI as of late, we were creeping on a trajectory upward in terms of total numbers of schools, and this spring alone, we've lost 4 or 5 schools, and they're closing their doors. It isn't that they're unhappy with the NAI; they just we're all enrollment driven in one fashion or another, and so I think the challenge is to keep your conference in the game, keep your conference open to be receptive to teams' needs. They may come in and say, I just need a scheduling alliance. They may say, I want to join for a particular sport and associative membership. They may say, hey, there's about 4 of us, and we need a full-time home in terms of a conference. So I think we've set the table. I think the stage is set for further dialogue. And as I've told our people, we've been on the end of expressing our needs to other people that had a full plate and things were going well. But I think enough people in the NAI have lived on the other side, and they understand that they in turn may need associate membership someday, or they may need a little bit of time if they drop below 6 in a certain sport or numbers of institutions, and so we're looking out for each other, and I think we've set the stage where people know that we're a league that is receptive to anything, will listen and look at anything, and so the challenges ahead are to keep what you have and hopefully grow, not only in football, but certainly in full-time members. And we've done nothing to damage our position, but you have to be patient. I've learned in this game that you just stay the course and you stay dialogue, communicating. You keep your eyes and ears open. You keep the doors open, and good things will happen. And it's nice to be that conference that's needed. Arizona Christian came knocking at our door, and over the years, we literally saved Southern Oregon's football program, and they would openly tell you that. Matt Sayre said if you would have said no in 2012, we would have had to have dropped football. 3 years later, they won the national championship. Yeah. And it's heartwarming. It really is to think back to say, you were helping yourself, certainly as a league, but you were helping schools survive. Broke my heart. We talked to Simon Fraser. We know Teresa Hansen from her days at Lewis Clark State College. She's the athletic director, and here's a storied program that loved American football, and they dropped football. And it wasn't because of them not trying, and it wasn't because us or others trying to look out for their needs. But anyway, I think the new commissioner there's going to be a lot more good days than the bad days, but I think that we've got to stay the course. We've got to continue to grow, and we just can't say no to anything without looking at it. And I brought up the neighbors to the east. 2 of those 5 schools that have closed or are going to close at the end of this term are out of the North Star. Yeah. And so they're down to 5 schools in football and 6 or 7 in volleyball, basketball. And so, there's been a long history of the North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana schools talking. Certainly, Dickinson State was with us for 3 years while the North Star was resurrected. And so, I just think I look at it as an exciting opportunity. And so, whomever that new person, she or he, I think they're going to get to be part of a new frontier, and I think that's really exciting.
When you have, we talked about, you have said you will stay on until someone else is hired. When you start looking at that through a lens a little bit, you've had a couple weeks now and you're seeing how progress is being made. Do you think that transition is going to happen pretty quickly, or do you think we're going to be into the mid to late summer before you're finally allowed to hang up your hat?
Well, I think a lot of it, certainly comes down to the pool of applicants, Paul. My thing with them is I didn't want them to hurry hiring a good person.
Yeah.
And don't make June 30th of 23 your finish line. If you need more time, I can do this in my sleep. There's things that need to get done in the transition where you roll the calendar and you leave 22, 23 behind and you get into 23, 24. We've already done some things this spring, talking about the next year. We've positioned our golf teams in a merged with another conference, the Red River Conference, for championship play. And so we've already touched on some things that have an effect already. But my thing is guys, don't get hung up with a contract. I am not going to walk away from something this good and just let it die on the vine. I mean, we've all worked too hard. And so if it rolls into July, there's some filings that need to be done with the NAI. There's corporate sponsors that need to be we need to be in communication with. There's invoices to be sent out. You bet. Gosh, I mean, I didn't know what day it was, what month it was anyway. I was having too much fun, and so if we get into July, August, if they get a candidate that is a can't miss, and they've got obligations that take them to the winter meetings, I think I know how to run those meetings. I'd be glad to help, and they already know I can run the conference from Arizona in the wintertime, so Joan can still get her vacation. So I'm in all seriousness, they know that this commissioner is going to be there, and I've got the baton in my hand, and I'm going to hand it off. But the race is going to keep going.
Yeah.
Kent, kind of changing subjects here. You just had the national convention in Kansas City. I believe that's where it was at, or was it?
No, we were down.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
Southern cuisine in New Orleans.
Yeah, that's right. But talk a little bit about some things that came out of that meeting that maybe directly affect the Frontier Conference, and just some highlights of that.
Well, a year earlier in Kansas City, the Frontier Conference actually crafted legislation that was unanimously approved. Our legislation was, if a institution went somewhere else, or heaven forbid, folded or got out of the business of athletics, if an institution caused your conference to fall below 6, which is the minimum to be called a conference, that you have 2 years then to go hunting to get your level back up. And again, I go back to one of my previous comments in this interview. There was conferences with double-figure numbers of schools, but they didn't lose sight of the fact that someday they could be affected. And there are 2 other conferences that live somewhat like we do, the North Star and the Gulf Coast Conference. We're all hovering right at that minimum number. And so not only were we part of the crafting of the associative membership legislation back now 7 or 8 years ago with the Cascade Conference, which, by the way, is used nationwide by the NAI conferences, but we legislated that. And so jumping ahead to this year, Bob, the Kansas Collegiate Conference, along with the North Star and the Frontier, we co-sponsored legislation that was very similar to what we passed a year ago. And this one dealt with sports. So let's use the North Star as an example. They just got through falling below 6 in football. They've got 5 football playing members. They now have 2 years. It's a twin, if you will, to our bylaw that passed, but this one talks about a sport rather than institutions. And so it buys you a little time to hopefully get another member, or in this case, a conference member that maybe isn't sponsoring football, to add football. So you've got a 2-year recovery time, institutionally by our rule, and now by sport. And so that was one thing. The other thing that really is going to have an effect, we've got a committee right now studying our transfer rule. And this was even before the NCAA portal. This was before, we really got serious about taking a look at athletes moving from institution to institution within a conference, but also leaving the frontier and going out to another NAI conference. The NAI just passed a rule, and this is going to definitely have an effect on transfer rules. They abolished the 16-week rule. So if you transfer within the NAI world now, it used to be, let's take a football player, for example. If they were going to leave a conference and go to another conference in the NAI, they could transfer it semester. They could put their 16 weeks in the spring and be eligible to play the next fall. But there were certain sports like basketball where if you were gonna play, you had to get those 16 weeks in, and usually what it was is you did some in the spring and you did some in the fall, so you'd be eligible. But you notice once in a while there were some schools in the NAI where kids weren't eligible to play until after the conference season started, because they were serving their 16 weeks. NAI got rid of it. But in the same breath, the NAI said, we're not gonna talk portal. We're not gonna go that route that we're seeing happening in the NCAA. But I do think it's going to influence conference transfer rules, because now over here, the kid can leave the conference and be eligible immediately. But in the Frontier Conference, you're sitting out 365 days. So it'll be interesting to see what recommendations the committee comes to us with in our summer meetings. But, we're not a league of penalties. We don't lead with penalty per se, but we're also trying to preserve a coach's hard work of assembling a team and keeping the migration from happening. I mean, I have no idea right now what goes through the mind of an NCAA coach, where a kid can drop their name in a portal and be gone, and show up on somebody else's team in another uniform playing against you. I mean, it's you just you're hitting a moving target. So those are a couple things that are right there out front and center that could help, could hinder.
How about the football expansion? Is that going to affect this fall to expand the football playoffs?
Yep, we're going to go to 20 teams, which undoubtedly is going to help the Frontier Conference. The way it's going to be framed is if you're a conference champion, you're going to get one of those spots. And so there's, I believe, 13 conferences that play football. So 13 of the 20 are going to get in. And then the remaining 7 at large are going to be looked at as far as top 20 teams. But you no longer have to be in the top 20. You got to be your conference champion and then 7 at-larges. So we've always felt that, our second place team, our third place team was worthy of a first round playoff game. And so I now see two teams getting in as a distinct possibility. The other thing that's going to be different is they're going to take that week. You remember how we always had the week between the semifinals and the national championship?
Yep.
We're always off. That is going to be now consumed. So we're not starting our playoffs any earlier. It's going to be that Saturday before Thanksgiving, will be the first round. And there's going to be numbers 13 through 20 are going to play, and you're not going to play a conference opponent in your first round. So there's going to be 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. There's going to be 8 teams, so there's going to be 4 games on that first weekend. Okay, and so you're going to get 4 winners to go then with the numbers 1 through 12 to get back to your 16-team start. So week 2, which is the Saturday following Thanksgiving, is going to look like what the old week 1 looked like. So 20 teams get to play for the 16 spots, if you will. In the first Saturday, numbers 1 through 12 will get a bye. And then every Saturday thereafter will lead to the national championship. So I think it's going to help the conference, because now the discussion is, okay, we're going to get 2. How about that third team? It's going to be, you can just see it coming. But those are positive things, because we've long felt that we had one really good team sitting at home. Somebody that might be playing your best football at that time of year, but didn't play well enough early to gain the automatic qualifier out of the Frontier. We sent obviously a great team to the and then the next step, guys, and football coaches know it, athletic directors know it, the players know it. We got to go out and win. We got to go out and get ourselves a first round win, and we got to get back to the days where Frontier teams were always in that Elite Eight, that semifinal game, and that's going to happen. That's going to happen.
Well, and you bring up a great point with the idea of, you have 13 conference champions. In years past, with 16 teams, that only left 3 at large. And I'd love to be able to go back and look through the years and see how many of those 3 at large were out of the top 10. So not only did we have to have 2 really good teams, but we basically had to have 2 teams in the top 10 to get back to 2 teams in the playoffs. And the expansion certainly going to drop that line down and going to help us and others in a big way.
Well, the script, we had every imaginable scenario, Paul. And the script really had to read: one team go through undefeated, and the second place team only loses to the first place team.
Yeah.
That was really your only recipe of getting 2 teams in. Now we've got an enlarged field. Conference champion goes, and that next best 1 or 2 teams get to fill those other remaining 7 spots.
We always, every year, we have a team that feels like they've got robbed, and the College of Idaho this past year certainly were the bell left at the dance. With the season they had, and to get left out of the playoffs at the end of the run was just disheartening.
I think I'm speaking correctly. Rocky, Carroll, College of Idaho, certainly Montana Tech. Every one of them, Montana Western, every one of them had a year where they could tell that story, Paul, that you just described.
Yep, completely agree. What else you got for Commish, Bobby?
Well, I think another thing that's going to be nice with this football playoff with the 20 teams is that our conference champion's not going to go up against the number 1 team in the nation in that first round like have seen the last few years.
Well, that and we know we're not going to play a fellow conference. That
conference. Yeah.
I've watched the Big Sky over the years, and I mean, your reward after slugging it out all year is Eastern Washington got to play Montana, or Montana got to play Idaho, or whatever. I mean, give us somebody in a new uniform to at least block and tackle, you know.
Yeah.
And so I agree. I think that helps the whole NAI. But Matt Steppen was our committee member on the subcommittee that studied this, and Matt serves as our football chair, and those guys did a great job. They did a great job of moving the NAI forward, and for selfish reasons, it certainly moved the Frontier Conference forward, I believe.
We're lucky in that respect. I mean, you look at all of our Frontier Conference chairs, they care about their programs, but they do care about the Frontier Conference overall. What might not be great for them right now certainly will serve us in the long run. And I think we're really blessed in that respect. We have a lot of people that care about not only their institution, but everybody involved.
And that very compliment has been passed along where schools have come into our league, most recently Arizona Christian. They certainly they wanted to be in, and their application was approved, but they commented on how the presidents that are in leadership positions, the ADs, just what you said, Paul, they're looking out for the good of, and welcoming and helping other schools. Go back to the authoring of the reimbursement package and the airline thing that Don Blackheader and Matt Steppen authored. They were certainly wanting to help the Frontier, but they were looking at it from the big picture. What can we do to help the NAI? And so that's another thing that I'm very proud of is our people have gotten involved at a national level.
Well, Commish, want to wish you all the luck in the future, and if you can just squeeze a little time between those honeydews, get that boat ready to go, and get out and enjoy some summer fresh time air up there on the lake.
Yeah. It's not hard to retire in whitefish, Bob. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, I can understand that. We might have to plan a trip up there and
to both of you
do more.
The invitation's always open. Always open. It's been a great ride, guys. I've had a wonderful relationship, certainly with the media, and you two are at the top of that list. And we collectively have moved this league forward, and it's a race where we're in the lead. And like I said, when the baton gets handed, there's going to be that next person, and you're not going to be able to wipe the smile off their face either. And I just know that new, fresh ideas. I came in at 58 and was running through airports, and at age 72, I was kind of dragging my suitcase through airports. That might have been the only thing that slowed down, but as far as the job itself, what a joy.
Well, and I can't thank you enough. You've been nothing but great to me through the years, Commish. And we've always said that the Frontier is a family, and you're certainly at the head of the family. So I thank you for everything. And it's certainly not like you're going to go away. We'll still be tripping over you at football games and basketball gyms and everywhere else.
Yeah, they at the closing of the press conference, they awarded me a title, Commissioner Emeritus, and then they handed me the keys to free admittance to every Frontier and Cascade Conference contest. And my wife's eyes lit up. Joan was going, "Oh my God, I get to keep going to the events." And I told him, I said, "I don't know who's more excited about that gift, but I think it might be Joan. She loves athletics." And so we'll be there, Paul, and I'm just happy to have participated in an interview of two of our distinguished service award winners, both of you, and I mean that sincerely.
That just means you're bottom of the barrel. That's all. I mean, that's how far you had to go to get Bob and I.
Yeah, yeah. That reminds me of I went to a Hall of Fame induction here a while back. I'll finish with this story. And the two guys that were being inducted, this is Whitefish's Hall of Fame, and they were being prodded, if you will, to say a few words, and they kind of hemmed and hawed, and they weren't really prepared to address a rather large audience, and so one of them had the program in his hand, and he's looking up and down the line of lists, and he looked at his buddy Mac was his nickname. He says, Mac, he says, I'm looking at this list of past Hall of Fame inductees, and you and I should have been in this group a long time ago. That was their opener. And so I bring that story up because you guys were at the top of and deserving of being honored by the league, and thank you for what you guys do.
Yeah, we love it. That's for darn sure.
I got one more question, Paul, since he brought up Joan. And this kind of goes back to your press conference. I think it was brought up. Does Joan get her sewing room back now that you won't have an office in there? I think Kurt brought that up or something.
Kurt threw a couple zingers at his dad, and the sewing room is going to go back to the sewing room. I have a feeling my office might be just what you're seeing here.
Yeah, it seems like we found your new office
at the kitchen table. Another question that was asked is, what's going to be different about the commissioner and his wife when you step away from this job? And I said, from the commissioner's standpoint, I said, I love them all, but obviously I can show my favoritism to one team maybe versus another in a sportsman's fashion. And I said, but here's the real deal. I said, those referees are going to be on point, knowing that Jones will now yell at them. He will yell at them. I'm telling you right now.
Well, maybe we'll sign her up for some sensitivity training. I mean, this is just not the time or place where we can go after officials, Commish.
Yeah, you may have to call her over for a halftime interview just to settle her down. Yeah.
Well, we wish both of you the best of luck, Tim.
Yeah. They think they got rid of Keller. They might have found one that can amp it up even a little bit more.
Well, Commish, thank you very much.
You guys have a great day. Yep. Always enjoy the talk, and I'm still working. They got me on the clock, so I've been trying to get things, trying to get the honeydew list done so I can get back to my job.
All right, Commish. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, fellas. Have a great day.
You too, bud.
You too. Commissioner Kent Paulson, just kind of a great chance to talk to him and kind of let him talk about what he's accomplished and what the conference has accomplished, Paul. He just, when you, like you said, and you start putting things down on paper, it's come a long ways.
Well, it's one of those that it's kind of like looking at the pictures of your kid where you might not notice the day-to-day change, but when you step back and analyze all the pictures, it's shocking how much has changed. And you think of all the different sports and all the different schools and the different looks that the Frontier has had through those years. He's never had a calm time. I mean, it's always been, just truly like nose to the grindstone, and we're better because of him. And certainly our long-term forecast is better because of Commissioner Kent Paulson.
And he brought up the COVID thing, and that was tough for everybody. But one thing I don't think a lot of people realize that, if we had not played during the COVID era, I'm going to call it, how many student athletes would have dropped out of college during that time if we had not played.
That's tough.
That's something nobody will ever know, but that's something that I have never heard that brought up or said or anything. But, how many of those kids would have not come to school?
Well, and I think the other side of that is you look at the backbone of what the Frontier Conference is. I still think a lot of the cancellations of programs and schools closing their doors is because of the hardship of COVID and unable to get your head back above water. And I think the conference as a whole helped one another. And, I think we're better because of that. And I thought it was handled extremely well. We obviously know what COVID was like nationally and in a business term, but I think the Frontier Conference, from top to bottom, from Kent to our presidents, to our ADs and faculty and everybody else, boy, if we aren't all on the same page, I'm not sure all of us survived that either. And we did very well.
Well, Paul, once again, thanks. Why don't you go ahead and
Thank
wrap us up?
All right. For Bob Ritteround, I'm Paul Podisco. Thanks for joining us, the Montana Sportscast podcast. And until next time, take care.